Imagine a world without flags, no presidents make speeches, no armies march to war. This is a world without government, anarchy. It's a word that evokes fear and excitement. Could such a world ever exist? And if it did, what would it look like? From the moment humans formed communities, some form of social order emerged. Tribes had chiefs, villages had elders. Over time, these structures evolved into the complex systems of governance we know today. Governments, in their many forms, have become the invisible architects of our world. They set rules, enforce laws, and shape the flow of resources. But what if we hit the reset button? What if we stripped away the layers of power and control? What if we dared to imagine a world where individuals were truly free? The very notion is both exhilarating and terrifying. Throughout history, governments have played a pivotal role. They have brought order to chaos, defended nations from threats, and provided essential services. The Code of Hammurabi, one of the earliest known sets of laws, established a system of justice in ancient Babylon. The Roman Empire, with its vast infrastructure and organized bureaucracy, showcased the power of centralized governance. But government, for all its benefits, has always been a double-edged sword. Power, once concentrated, has a tendency to corrupt. History is replete with examples of tyrannical regimes, oppressive laws, and the abuse of power. From the pharaohs of Egypt to the dictators of the 20th century, the human story is marred by the excesses of unchecked authority. This inherent tension between the need for order and the potential for abuse lies at the heart of the debate about government. Is it a necessary evil, a compromise we make for the sake of stability? Or can we envision a future where the chains of authority are broken and humanity governs itself? The idea of a world without government is not just a theoretical exercise. Throughout history, there have been societies that functioned to varying degrees without formal rulers or hierarchical structures. The indigenous tribes of North America, for example, often operated on principles of consensus and community leadership, with no single authority figure. Similarly, some nomadic groups, such as the Bedouins of the Arabian Peninsula, have traditionally relied on tribal customs and elders' wisdom to maintain order. These examples, while diverse in their practices, demonstrate that human societies can exist and thrive without the rigid structures of traditional government. They offer a glimpse into alternative models of social organization where power is distributed and decision-making is often communal. The prospect of a world without government is undeniably alluring. Imagine a life unshackled by taxes, regulations, and the arbitrary dictates of authority. Proponents of anarchy, often called anarcho-capitalists, envision a world where individuals are free to pursue their own interests without interference from the state. In this utopia, the free market reigns supreme. Individuals are free to trade goods and services without government intervention. Private property rights are absolute. Innovation flourishes unhindered by bureaucratic red tape. It is a vision of individual liberty taken to its logical extreme. But is such a world truly possible? And even if it were attainable, would it be desirable? To answer these questions, we must confront the potential downsides of a world without government. Section 5, the shadow of chaos. The most common criticism leveled at anarchy is that it would inevitably descend into chaos, without laws, police, or courts who would prevent violence and protect the innocent. Critics argue that human nature, inherently selfish and power-hungry, would run rampant in the absence of external constraints. They paint a dystopian picture of a world where might makes right, where the strong prey on the weak and where fear and insecurity are the only constants. Without a system of justice, disputes would be settled through violence. Without law enforcement, criminals would operate with impunity. Section 6, the crumbling pillars. Beyond the immediate threat of violence, the absence of government would have far-reaching consequences for the very fabric of society. Public services, taken for granted in most developed nations, would cease to exist. Without government funding, who would build roads, maintain infrastructure, or provide education and healthcare? Education, the cornerstone of any civilized society, would likely become the exclusive domain of the wealthy. Healthcare, too, would be privatized, with access determined by one's ability to pay. The gap between rich and poor would widen into a chasm, as those with resources would have a distinct advantage in navigating this new world. Environmental protection, already a pressing concern in the 21st century, would likely fall by the wayside. Without government regulations, corporations and individuals would be free to exploit natural resources without regard for long-term sustainability. Section 7. The invisible hand's grip. The economic implications of a world without government are perhaps the most hotly debated. Proponents of free markets argue that the absence of government intervention would unleash an unprecedented wave of innovation and prosperity. Without taxes and regulations, businesses would thrive, competition would flourish, and consumers would benefit from lower prices and greater choice. However, critics point out that unregulated markets are prone to boom and bust cycles, monopolies, and other forms of market failure. Without government oversight, corporations could engage in unethical or even criminal behavior with impunity. The very freedoms that underpin a free market system could be exploited to create a system that benefits the few at the expense of the many. Section 8. The tapestry of humanity. Beyond the tangible impacts on law, order, and economics, a world without government would also have profound implications for human culture and society. Social norms, values, and beliefs are often shaped either directly or indirectly by government policies and institutions. Without a central authority to define and enforce moral codes, individuals and communities would be left to navigate the complexities of right and wrong on their own. This could lead to a more diverse and tolerant society where individuals are free to live according to their own beliefs as long as they do not infringe on the rights of others. However, it could also lead to a fragmentation of society where different groups, each with their own set of values, clash over resources, beliefs, and ways of life. The absence of a common framework for resolving disputes could exacerbate tensions and lead to conflict.